It's a very intriguing question that even I faced when I got into this matter. I mean, I'm a practicing professional lawyer in the Supreme Court, so I was not really engaged with ideologies or probably politics at any point of time as either as a student or as a professional. So when I got into this matter, I thought probably, as everyone else would think, that this is a matter which is probably political, like what people are discussing over 9 o'clock debates every day. But when I got to read the facts and the evidence and the material which has come on record, that's quite shocking to say the least. What happened is that the invasions did happen as a matter of fact, which is not denied. Story of Civilization by Will Durant records it and documents it, and it's actually accepted across as a credible narration of events as transpired. Now, if you look at this issue, I mean, there are two aspects to any problem. There was a political aspect of the religion that invaded India, and there was a spiritual aspect of the Sanatani defense of the place. So political power was lost, as probably as Mr. Kunrad has highlighted, sometime in around 1000 AD. So once the political power was lost, the temples were at the mercy of the iconoclasts. But what is it that the Sanatan Dharma, or the people of this land who believed in certain things and certain values, kept fighting? At a point of time, a single man standing there, two people joining hands, and then that became probably a caravan, as we see, which eventually led to the judgment that we got in 2019. So the spiritual grit of this land is a pursuit of truth, a pursuit of dharma. This is a land of dharma. This is not a land of a book or a god. This is a land of dharma where even the people we elevate to the status of a god, be they we are worshippers of nature, so we call them Varun Dev, we call Vayu Dev. So basically, we deify whomever comes to our aid. So now I think we regularly refer to Google Mata as much whenever we are in need of some reference. So therefore, we deify anyone who comes to our aid because we believe that Daivam Manushya Rupena is how the help is sent and received. So therefore, that again goes to your core philosophical concept of Sanatana, which is Advaita, where there is non-duality. When we are talking about non-duality, there is there is a Jivatma and a Paramatma, as we call it, and we believe that there is a Paramatma existing in every Jivatma. So when it comes to fasting, etc., I say that there is a Ram residing in me and I can't starve him. So therefore, that's my excuse not to fast on Shivratri or any other day. But be that as it may, now when come back to Ayodhya, what has happened there is Ram is the yardstick or the benchmark on which every human conduct is measured up to. I'm going to Ayodhya and I wanted to write a piece before I left Delhi. So I'll be leaving tomorrow morning. So I couldn't sleep last night. And today morning, I actually completed an article on this issue. I feel that we have actually achieved a political freedom probably in 1947, economic freedom maybe in 1990s. But this epitomizes the 2019 judgment, and the Pran Pratishtha happening on 22nd January is the spiritual liberation, which is the final the string that we were holding back. Because if you look at the ecosystem which was controlling our thought process, the narratives that what we get to read, what we would discuss, and how it would be presented has been shattered over the past few years. Thanks to social media, people started questioning, people started researching. Someone who's from a commerce background like me and who's taken to law as a profession got to read a lot about historiography, the way history was written. And then I discovered it actually aligned with the manner in which the history has been written in our land. The spiritual aspect of the connect that people have with Ram as a benchmark or a yardstick is what actually kept that idea of Ayodhya being pillaged which hurt a lot of people. As we keep seeing a lot of data, for 500 years, Suryavanshi Thakurs have not worn leather chappal or their pagadi. So that's a pain which is carried through for generations. How many of us can even sacrifice using of a mobile for a day? What to speak about generations? So therefore, that is the depth of the connect, which is purely spiritual, which is transcended probably about 20 or 30 generations. So that is the reason that has actually come out. And then we as a culture or a civilization believe in rebirth. So that probably is the reason we are able to relate to certain things which are beyond our lifetimes or the lifetimes of the people that we've seen living around us. India as a civilizational state, it was always very scientific tempered. It allowed questioning and it encourages questioning because we are called the seekers. We always pursue truth and we keep inquiring. Our methodologies of debates, which are very documented, and unfortunately, it's not taught across the road in the campus where I studied my law, but is actually part of philosophy and logic that should be taught in law, but unfortunately, it's never taught there. The place where it is actually used and where we make a living out of it. So, that apart, what happens is our entire social structure and the ecosystem was premised on a hub, which was the temple ecosystem. Now, why would anyone actually attack a temple? Of course, for the gold, the ornaments, the wealth. In addition to all that, why did they have to actually, they could have just robbed and left, like what any robber would do or a thief would do. They actually had to destroy it. They had to actually probably do more. The reason being that unless you actually attack the hub, the spokes which are dependent on it, which sustain the society, cannot be disjointed or disconnected and put in a disarray. So, to conquer any society, what you require to do is to destroy their intellectual ability to fight you. And the intellectual ability was always centered on institutions of learning. The institutions of learning were repositories of science, medicine, and astronomy, astrology, all branches of learning which are evident from any of the ancient literature. If you touch them, you will actually get details. If you pick up Valmiki Ramayana, you will get to learn so much about geography, geology, zoology, apart from how the origin of multiple things. If you look at Mahabharata, you'll get administrative law, you get jurisprudence. So therefore, these are the wealth of knowledge, and these itihasas have actually used them as a contextual screenplay in which the story has been progressed. So now, to attack that, you had to attack the institution called the temple. Now, once an ecosystem of temple is established, it supports the entire structure of the society. Not everyone would be qualified to enter this campus and become a student here. So, like me, I am a BCom honors graduate, but I couldn't probably have got a seat here. I studied elsewhere. So, it takes some kind of a intellectual ability. Arhata is what probably I would call it as is Telugu. So you whether you have qualified, like when people actually talk about the discrimination, I'm digressing, but this is an important point. The discrimination that we talk about is that people were deprived of certain access to learning and knowledge. What is your nuclear non-proliferation is all about? Is it not discrimination? It is discrimination on the premise that only democracies can be trusted with certain kind of power. It is the discrimination to understand a person's ability to handle such power. Now, going back to the issues here, the attack on our temples was structured to disable the society and thereafter conquer us, which they successfully did. But again, why do we keep going back to temples? And then the claims, assertions of temple is actually very symbolic. We are a very symbolic society. For us, everything is a symbol. The moment you see something, it symbolizes something. We infer certain things. So that is a symbol of a spiritual strength that we get. The thought, probably it is placebo for a rationalist, but it could be something more for someone who's a believer. So that's the context in which this issue has to be looked at, not merely from a context of two diverse perspectives or diverse ways of worshipping God. Because for us, all inclusive. We are inclusive of Charvakas who don't believe in probably a tomorrow or afterlife. We believe in probably rituals. We believe in yagnas. We believe in knowledge pursuit. And Bhagavad Gita gives you all the options. Whichever path you practice sincerely, you'll reach me. So whether I take a mudrika to go to Satsang Enclave or I go via Chandni Chowk, I'm going to reach there. It's only a route. So therefore, this diversity is why we've accepted whichever form worship or faith had come into our culture. That never took away the essence of questioning, the freedom to challenge and a particular ideology or a particular worldview. That challenge is impermissible in Abrahamic faiths because they inherently have the concepts of inquisitions or probably even worse. So therefore, that concept you don't find it in Indic civilization or it's any of the religions or so-called religions which are born here, because we actually question and we evolve, and we are an evolving society which is self-cleansing. All the social evils kept cleansing themselves. So that's the way probably we need to see this issue as much, that we've evolved and we've actually cleansed ourselves, and we are still standing up to question.
We continue to do that. We
Right.
continue
And then
to
as far as
abolish
the
some systems and
courts and
practices.
social challenges, we've been brainwashed by the literature which was forcibly brought into our texts, thanks to Macaulay and his followers, the Marxists. So they take the credit for what they did to this nation. And that was the third invasion, which was invisible, which actually also had been discovered and actually criticized at length by the Allahabad High Court as early as in 2010. None of us would have read the pages written criticizing these Marxist professors when they came to court to depose on oath, and then they were cross examined. If you look at their cross examinations, they actually admit that I've come to court to swear that there was no temple remnants. This is post ASI giving reports that there are structures there which are non Islamic, and in fact, they replicate Hindu temple construction styles. They have the courage. Look at the lack of integrity, is what I really felt pained. A professional without integrity is the worst that a society can have, especially in academia. And this is exactly the language used by the Allahabad High Court. It says that we trust our academicians to give us honest material. That is the reason we have the highest pedestal for a guru. But if the people in that position actually
Misuse them.
subsume their integrity for their ideology, then you cease to be a guru and you are actually a foot soldier or a sleeper cell for something else.